Hello, everyone. Tarek Patel here from SB Live Sports, the CIF Southern Section Sit-Down coming through your TV screen once again, and we've got another special guest in studio. This gentleman's won 3 national championships as a high school volleyball coach. He's been at Loyola High School for a long time. I think we're creeping up on 30 years. He's got over 600 wins. It's Coach Michael Boehle in the studio today. Thanks, Michael, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm looking forward to it.
I think we can't bury the lead too much. You just had a bout with Miracosta, and you were able to edge them out in four games, 4 sets. I don't know what's the technical term.
4 sets is the technical term.
Okay, 4 sets.
4
okay,
games,
we got. Okay, we got to get that straight. When that game, I tell you what, not that boys volleyball isn't popular, but here in Southern California, the footballs, the basketballs, the baseballs, I feel like boys volleyball might get lost in the fray, but not on that night when there's 3,000 people in the gym. Can you talk about just what that does for boys volleyball or volleyball here in Southern California, a game like that?
Sure. Well, I think you hit on the head. I think you're competing against the footballs and the basketballs and the baseballs and the rivalries amongst those sports. But, when someone gets a chance to come out and see a Loyola Miracosta match, I've got a great story to tell you about that. But they get to see not only the community involvement and how many people show up, but they get to see great volleyball. Our programs go way back, and we've had some pretty notable alumni come through there, both programs. We've been the top 2 volleyball programs for years, decades, and I think we're the best in the country. There was a time where Loyola Miracosta ran the CIF gauntlet for a long time. It was one or the other that was going to win it. Now you've got pushback from the Orange County schools that have really tried to make a name for itself. But my funny story was getting back to your point about just making a name for boys volleyball.
Sure.
I was fortunate enough to coach Dick Butkus' grandson.
Okay.
Ian Parrish. And Dick, as you know, was a pretty darn good football player back in the day and grew up in in Illinois. And he came to his first Miracosta game, and he was sitting down, and his grandson was on the JV team. And I walked up to him and I said, "What do you think so far?" Because we were playing at Loyola Marymount University. We had about 2,000 people. It was really a cool atmosphere. And he went, "Where I'm from, it was a girls' sport."
Ooh.
And that's all I got. And I went, "Oh man, I got to get him. I'll get him."
Yeah, you got might have a long way to go on that one. Yeah.
But after our varsity match, which he stayed for, he came up to me, he found me,
wow,
he sought me out, and he said, "I'm wrong. This is unbelievable." And his grandson ended up playing at UCLA, and it was really cool. But just for him to say something like that, we're touching people all the time, but for him to see that played at that kind of a level was pretty cool, and then to hear that compliment was pretty neat too.
Yeah, what an eye-opening. That's a great story. How if there's one thing it might be a sport people have to see in person, and maybe that's what Dick Butkus was talking about, because when you see these guys fly through the air like they do, and the power they pound the ball down at the hardwood as they do, it's very, very impressive. And you just mentioned how maybe these Orange County programs are pushing back and trying to pluck at you at the top. There's an element of you've been in the game so long, you're kind of proud of that. There's more out there that it's not just as easy as it used to be for Loyola.
100%. And I think I'll even be a little more broad. I think it's Southern California, is the hotbed of boys volleyball. Unfortunately for us at the collegiate level, Title IX didn't help us back in the day. Clubs or programs had to cut their men's volleyball programs in order to accommodate the women's sport. So we've got about 23 Division I, II schools, but you're seeing a growth in men's volleyball. It's the Division III NAIA level, but it's still more opportunities for these boys to play. And so, again, back to what you said, the athleticism that some of these kids have, the technique. I mean, it's a skill that you have to play, but I think you get a better sense for how cool this sport is when you actually go watch a game like that. Southern California's got lots of programs that can compete with a Loyola Miracosta rivalry. Maybe not that level, but they're right there, and it's pushing us into another realm.
Back to Loyola Cubs. Listen, you've been at that school 26 seasons.
27 years working, 26 coaching.
There have been more games maybe than you've forgotten, and you've done so many great things. I alluded to at the beginning of the show, 3 national championships, a bevy of CIF Southern Section championships. what does it take to build a program like that, especially in a sport that, I mean, I don't want to be offensive, but would you call boys volleyball a niche sport or not quite?
Not yet.
Okay.
I mean, you can consider it. I think it's out there. I have heard of it's an entitled sport, you know. One of the things that was unique about just building that program at Loyola is, first of all, you've got a private school, right? So you're handpicking the kids that come into that institution. Where the public schools don't have that. They're getting their local community kids, and that's what you're dealt with. So I'm blessed with that, and I got there in 98. I'm an alum, 84. But when I got there in 98 or 97, I think it was, and then started coaching in 99, I was handed a team that, they didn't know me from Adam. They knew that I'd played professionally on the beach, and, I was probably 30-something years old at the time. But we were supposed to do something special that year. We had an All-American by the name of Kurt Topple, who ended up playing at Stanford. And I had to get them to buy in and trust me. And that was a real tough experience for me. It took me 4 or 5 years before we actually won our first. But you've got to build that trust. You've got to build that culture. And that's with any sport, And then once you get it, why don't you want to go to Loyola and play for Coach Boehle? Why don't you want to go to Loyola and get that education? Or any school for that matter that's building the reputation, modern day in basketball or football, St. John Bosco in football. So once you've built it and people start to trust the process, it's easy. Now, there are ups and downs, but I've not really changed the way I do things, Tark. I just haven't. I'm still pretty old school. I'm giving in a little bit more, but I'm real fortunate. I got all three of my boys who played for me at Loyola and then played collegiately at Santa Barbara. They've all coached for me, and I've got my youngest boy who's coaching with me now. And, I'm letting him take more reins and under my guidance, but it's so neat to see some of the stuff that they've learned from me. And that's been my biggest thing is people ask, like, what do you say, what's your biggest success story? Like, what is success to you at Loyola? And it's not about the wins and losses. Those are great, and I'll go down as someone who's done a lot for the volleyball program. But it's when those kids come back and go, Coach, I remember, now I know what you meant when you did that. Or, hey, I wasn't very cool back then, and I just want to tell you that I now get, or I get invited to a wedding, or I get invited to, a baptism, something, and I know that I've gotten through to them and I've touched them in a way. So those are my biggest thrills, are when they come back to us and rehash what I did for them. And it's all about them. They've built the program. I'm just there to help.
When you are constantly trying to achieve greatness, you feel like that sometimes takes a toll on you?
Yeah. Ever since winning started happening, I always, to this day, I feel like I just said it today, there's a target on Loyola's back. Yeah. And we get a lot of grief just because of who we are. We're an all-boys Catholic school, handpicks their kids. We're getting the elite athlete all the time. And we've won. So
it's like you're supposed to. That's what everyone's saying.
Yeah,
right,
everyone's saying that. So, we get treated differently at some schools. We get treated differently at some other schools. But, yeah, there's an expectation. Now, I have an expectation. I always tell them, I said, my expectation is to do the following. But the other expectation is you've got these other schools that want to get to the top, just like you've been.
No, they're giving you their best shot every chance.
Every chance they can, they're coming out to give you your shot. And you got a game like Maricosta Loyola. If you look at the records from at least under my tenure, they're pretty close.
Okay.
Like it's a battle. And so, to claim that, it's like a tobacco road almost, but to proclaim the bragging rights for that little community of Manhattan Beach, because we have a lot of kids that come from there, is huge for them. But they have to know that Orange County's coming for them, because Orange County's been real successful in the CIF-Southern section the last couple of years with Newport and Corona Del Mar and Edison High School. And it's, even the modern day is starting to pick it up in the game of volleyball. So, it does take a toll on me, because then I start to believe, like, God, if we lose a match, I'm a failure.
Right. Insecurity starts to set in, doesn't it?
A little bit, yeah. And I'm human.
Right.
I'm human. But as I get older, I'm starting to realize, this is this big in my world.
Sure.
And I'm more about, I'm a husband, I'm a father, and a mentor to these kids. And I want to see the life lessons that come out of this for them. And so, yeah, but there's still
Oh, yeah.
We're all insecure in our own little way.
Yeah, man. The wins and losses, they're important, but they're but a vapor. They are but a vapor, my friend. I wanted to ask, the landscape of boys volleyball, you said the hotbed of it is pretty much here in Southern California, so you don't have to go too far to really find high-level competition. And please, educate me, educate the viewer, because I don't know. Are there, like, national tournaments you guys can travel to, or really... the national tournaments are right here in the backyard. You don't have to go too far.
Sure.
I always kind of think about, are you guys traveling around trying to beat up on everybody, or no, it's right here in Southern California?
So it's a great question, and it's something that's been asked a lot of times. It's not basketball. It's not It's not baseball where they have the national showcase or whatever. We do. In my opinion, my humble opinion, there are 3 places that we, as a volleyball school, could go and play. Hawaii would be one of them.
Okay.
Chicago would be the other, because there's a few schools out there. The Midwest is really starting to pick up in the game of volleyball. It's been great. And then Southern California. We have a tournament in Southern California that's run by a very good friend of mine, Charlie Jackson, Poway High School. It's called the Best of the West. It's in San Diego, and we have teams now coming from Hawaii, we've Arizona, all NorCal.
How long's that been going on?
20 plus.
Oh, so it's been around. Okay,
yeah.
okay.
But never was just it was just basically the SoCal teams and the San Diego teams, and it was the best of the West. Now you've got these outside schools that are building their programs that want to come in. Like, for instance, 2 years ago, Arizona beat us in the finals.
Okay.
And it was like, Arizona? Like, where are they coming
Whoa,
from? So
okay.
that's the best high school tournament.
Okay. So it's not
in
too
the
far.
nation, 100%.
Got it.
There's competition in those states that I was telling about, Hawaii and Chicago, or Illinois, sorry.
Right.
And but tournament-wise, like,
This is it.
This is it.
Okay.
Like, people are coming to us. They want to come here.
Okay.
And so but I'm glad to see that there's growth outside of it.
To get back to Loyola volleyball, and maybe talk about a little bit about this year. Mm-hmm. When you are getting ready for every game, we alluded to it a little bit, just the target that's on your back. You know, how do you find new ways to challenge these guys every day in practice, throughout the game? How does it not get monotonous to just go, hey, fellas, the other team's giving you your best shot, you know, go get them. You know, how do you change it up, keep them engaged?
You know, there's no magic wand that I can wave to say this is how we do it. It really isn't. It's what I'm feeling that particular time. You know, in our big matches, not so much our league matches, and it's not to take away from anybody in our league. It's just our league is not as tough as it has been in the years past. And it's great for some of our kids who don't get a chance to play in the big matches. They get a chance to play in these league matches. But, you know, we really do a good job of, there's so much, the technology now with volleyball. So we've got, you know, film we've got a camera in our gym, and kids have access to practice. They have access to game matches. It's gotten to the point that, you know, the company that we deal with breaks everything down for us so we can go and look at stats. Motivating them, I think it's just a given, because that's what we talk about. Like, as I mentioned in the beginning, it's just, here's who you are, here's who we are. Take it or leave it. And so it's when you get into Loyola, you kind of know if you're going to play volleyball, this is who you have to be and what you have to be. So are there things that I say? Yeah, there might be some locker room, what's it called when the poster boards? Or,
sure.
You know, where
poster board material, right.
Where I could say, hey, I heard so-and-so on that team was saying we weren't much, you know, coming into this, or I heard that he thinks you're hurt, or whatever it might be.
Right.
All it takes is for something little like that.
Right.
It's nothing. But, you know, the Maricosta one, for example, it was like bragging rights. You get to wear your Loyola jersey in downtown Manhattan Beach for the next year with this win, and wear it proudly. So it's you know, it's not much. It's expected that they come in and work hard every single time. And then playoffs, we turn it up another notch.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, it's fun, but it's like, I do this thing. It's been a tradition for the last 20 years. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but I have to make a full court shot. And I kid you not, I've been doing this for 24 years now. I still do it. So I have to make a full court shot before we end practice, during the playoffs only.
Okay.
And then we end on a player dunk.
Okay.
With my toss.
Okay.
And so those little things,
yeah,
fire them up.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
it's cool.
I get that. Yeah, that's cool.
And I like, practice is ending, and they line up along the court.
And they know it's time.
And the basket comes down, and yeah, I get a bucket of volleyballs, and
Okay.
I've done it in 1, and I've also done it in 20 minutes. So
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah.
it fluctuates, but that's something that I think is going to stick with them
Something
too.
little.
Yeah.
Got it.
And then they have to end with a dunk, and then we go from the easiest to the hardest, because then the pressure's on. Like, if you can't do it, something good's not going to happen out of it.
So does every player have to dunk?
No.
Okay.
It's picked by the players.
Okay.
But we'll go from the easiest to the hardest. So as we progress in the playoffs, right? And again, you're practicing every day. That player that's on the cusp of dunking could have the final one where you're like, we're in the finals. You got to dunk this ball.
Oh, wow.
And so the pressure that's on him, and the guys around him going,
Come on,
Billy, you got to get up. Come on.
Right.
And then Coach Boehle will either not toss or will stand on a box and hold that ball.
Right.
To
So
the rim.
maybe.
So
yeah,
it
maybe the
happens
little
every
guy
time.
can just kind of.
But
Yeah.
he's still getting up.
Yeah,
It happens every time. It may take a little help.
Okay.
But that's the tradition that we do. That's during the playoffs. That is there. The mantra we use going in is we're building a house. It's real simple. It's really an easy analogy to use. It's you start from the ground up, right? You frame the house, then you have the finishing touches, and then hopefully on the game of the finals, we walk into our brand new home,
Boom.
turnkey, and say, look what we did.
My last one for you, I think you've alluded to it. The fire in your belly, the energy, clearly the spirit at which you talk about your program. It's obvious, it's evident, it's burning bright. But there's also an aspect of it that I think we all sometimes forget, and that's having fun. And so I generally ask on this show, are you still having fun? And what is the funnest part about coaching high school volleyball?
It is. I am still having a lot of fun. I think once I stop having fun, again, we talk about the fire in the belly, but once I stop having fun, I'm done. Like, I can't. And I'm involved. I've got a club, MB Surf Volleyball Club in Manhattan Beach, that also brings me joy, because that's a whole different layer of volleyball, right? Those guys are all trying out, and it's kids from all over the place that are coming to play for our competitive club. At Loyola, I would say that the fun part is just watching every year the group that comes in and what they're going to, and trying to think about what they're going to be 3 years from now or 4 years from now. I think that's the fun part. Getting to the playoffs is fun for me, because I know we turn it up a notch. And I'll tell you what's not so much fun is just I do all the administrative stuff still, and that's hard. I still set up my own net. I'm type A, if you haven't noticed, but I'm a very type A person, so my net has to be perfect, and I want to make sure that it's clean. And our practices are, like I said, it's very restricted, and it's we're all wearing the same stuff. But to me, that's fun. Like, I enjoy that, and then when I see a kid look at me and I know that I've gotten through to him, and maybe it's a smile or it's I got you, coach. Like, it's nothing better. Nothing better.
I lied. I got one more thing I want to bring up to you. There is you are going into the Hall of Fame, or you are in the Hall of Fame?
I am going in on May 4th. May 5th.
Okay, we got to talk about that. Sorry. Okay. So tell us what kind of Hall of Fame it is, because I know there's various ones.
Sure.
There has to be.
Sure.
And so tell us about that a little bit.
Southern California Indoor Volleyball Hall of Fame. It's I think it's about 5-6 years old. There's some very prominent indoor volleyball players, most of them Olympians that you've heard of. They've started to open it up to some of the beach players. I've been nominated 3 different times and have not made the cut, if you will. And I got a call in May of last year that I was officially in from Mike Sodenheimer, who is one of the co-directors of the Hall of Fame. And I was blown away. I was honored, to be enshrined with some of these guys that I grew up idolizing, guys that I played with. I'm going in with a really cool class.
And are you going in as a VP player?
No, it's the indoor.
So indoor. That's
coaching,
right. That's right. That's right.
Loyola
Okay.
High. So
okay. So it's like your contribution to the game.
To Loyola, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, from Loyola High School. So, it's just to be included in that. I had an award. I was voted the AVCA National Coach of the Year, which I've never gotten before, and that was unbelievable. I got to go to this dinner in Florida, and I'm like, and Karch and I are really good friends, and he presented me with the award. And there was a little small talk before I had to make my little speech, but it was like those things. Those are all great, but it's because of the kids that I've had and what we've done. Like they've gotten to me. They're part of that success just as much as I am. But I got to be honest, like the biggest Hall of Famer is my wife. 100%. Like she's the one who's deserves every single accolade that I've gotten because she's allowed me to do something for so many years and sacrifice her time. And so that's my Hall of Fame, is my wife. So this is an award that should be given to her as well, but I'm so fired up. Our whole family's going. Lorela's been very generous in getting a couple tables, and I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a very exciting, fun night. And we got some unfinished business this year to take care of. I think we'll be in the semifinals if we get there, or the quarterfinals. So I'm hoping that we can have some closure, and then
you want some positive vibes that night.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm fired up, and thanks for bringing that up. Yeah, I'm honored and blessed, and just really excited to be able to be part of a Hall of Fame class.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
Michael Boehle, thank you so much for coming in today. Love to talk about volleyball and what I think is something that's really growing. And if it were anywhere else, it would probably have way more coverage, and way more around it. But I think, like you mentioned, the competing against the footballs, the basketballs, the baseballs, but what you've accomplished for the sport is fantastic, and you're a future Hall of Famer, so congratulations.
Well, I appreciate that. And Tark, I just want to say I appreciate all that you do for high school sports. We've known each other a little amount of time, but
Sure.
I've gotten to know you, and you're a class act, man. You do a great job, and this is unbelievable. SB Live, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah.
This is cool.
Oh,
This is
appreciate
really
it.
cool for high school sports.
Appreciate it. Yeah,
I'll be
we're
honest.
trying to have a little fun, trying to elevate the coverage, trying to make this real serious, because I think a lot of times, now that you bring it up, I tell people, hey, what do you do for then yeah, they'll see me on CBS, and we talk a lot of Lakers and Clippers and stuff, but people go, oh, like what's your full-time job? I'm a high school sports reporter. And automatically people think of their niece or nephew dribbling up a hardwood basketball court and the final score is 13-11, and I try to tell people it is not that.
No.
We got coaches going into the Hall of Fame, we got future Olympians, we've got future Division I college athletes, we've got future pros, and there are ton of stories to tell about those athletes and coaches. And so when I tell people that, they go, okay, there's something to that. And I think SB Live has that same spirit. And so we're trying to do something special.
Can't thank you and your staff enough for what you're doing, because this is just promoting the sports. And, that's the scary part for me, and I know we haven't touched on it, and I'm sorry for taking
that's
up
all
your
right.
time. I'm also worried about the state of high school sports, with club and everything going on. I mean, we've got players already from the soccer world that are playing on their club teams or national teams and foregoing high school. And it's sad, like there was something about it. And I have this little theory. I feel like what once was a professional team is now the collegiate team, and what was collegiate is now high school. And then who knows 10 years from now what that's going to be, right? I mean, you've got the NLIs going on right now, and the transfer portal is just really screwing things up. And it just, the state of sports and high school sports, we gotta keep this thing going strong, because this is where you're going to leave your mark, and this is where you're going to have your memories, forever.
Yeah, I would say the amateur status is kind of in jeopardy. I don't know how much longer it'll exist, because now with NIL, it muddies the waters a little bit. And you're right, the transfer portal's trickling down to high school sports. And we've got time. I'll ask you one more question.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know if you've got, if you did have a magic wand or a fix. We are in the transfer era of high school sports. Kids seem to run up against some adversity or have to work for their spot and go, you know what, I'm just gonna get out of Dodge and go and find another school. And every circumstance is different. Sometimes a transfer is needed, depending on what's going on. But do you feel like it's getting too rampant? Do you feel like it's impacting in a negative way? And if there was a fix, what would you suggest?
I do. I think there should be a limit as to how many times you're able to transfer. Back in the day, you had to move in order to transfer. Residential transfer is what it's called. I think it takes away from the kids that, you'll see at different times where you'll see a team that's written about in high school sports. Their team, it's a community team. They all grew up playing together and stayed together, and they didn't leave. And those are the stories I like to hear, because now you're creating all-star teams. But what about the kids that have been there, that want to be there for 4 years, that maybe aren't as talented, but they're going to give you everything they got? You're taking a spot away from them now. You're taking time away from them. And so that's getting missed in all this. I wish we were a little bit more stringent on those types of rules. I just wish there was more of you're allowed one transfer, and then because I've seen kids, and luckily it doesn't happen a lot at Loyola, but I've seen kids go from one school, like 3 schools in 3 years.
Oh yeah.
How is that happening? And I just think it's watering it down. And I'll tell you this, I put asterisks next to all those schools that win CIF championships with transfers. I just go, yeah, it wasn't with guys that came in as freshmen and ended as seniors. You got guys coming in juniors, seniors. Loyola hasn't played that game in ever really. And I don't know when we're going to start doing it. I mean, we've got to keep up with the Kardashians, right?
I was just going to say that becomes the challenge because every football coach, has to ask themselves, like, okay, we either got to start playing this game, maybe not to the nth level, but the school's got to help me out a little bit. There's got to be a medium ground because I either have to stick my nose up at it and go, you know what, we don't play that game and then lose by 3 touchdowns every 100%. Friday night, or we got to play the game a little bit within the boundaries that our school sets. Which one's it going to be? And some administration goes, no, we're not doing the transfers. Good luck, coach. And coach is going, all right, well, you're not really helping me out here, you know. No. So it becomes a challenge. Those coaches have to look at themselves in the mirror and ask themselves what kind of game they're willing to play.
And getting back to Drew, he's done a real good job of realizing that we once were the top Division I program,
yes.
And for so long under Steve Grady, for so long, and then the landscape changed. We're now in Division IV. We could go to Division V. I mean, we're not in the powerhouse leagues anymore. I mean, it's basically modern day in Bosco in the football
right.
world,
No, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
And it's kind of boring. It's not fun to watch anymore. Corona gets in once in a while.
Right. The Centennials of the world. Right.
Let's get back to where it once was. And I think he's come to realize that in order to compete with those 2-3 schools, you've got to play the game. And
totally.
We're not willing to do that yet.
Yeah,
we're just not.
No. We could go forever.
I know. Thank you. This is cool, man.
No, I'm glad. I'm glad you came in. Michael Boehle, future Hall of Famer, Michael Boehle, future Hall of Famer, and boys volleyball coach at Loyola High School. Thank you for watching the CIF Southern Section Sit Down. I'm Tarek Patel. We cover high school sports nationwide. ScorebookLive.com. Thanks for watching.